sold out. Rich get bailed out, we get sold out. Bailed out, we get sold out.
Hey everybody, I'm your host Elad, and today I'm reporting to you live from New York City, where we have no Amazon in New York City protesters. Let's go ask some people some questions. Hey, so my name's Elad, and I like to interview different protesters and rallies that are going on. And I wanted to ask you, why are you guys out here today?
Well, we're out here today because de Blasio, Cuomo, and different city council members are trying to sell out our communities. Right now, Amazon is receiving $1 to $3 billion in tax incentives and tax cuts and grants to come into our community. This comes at a time where 1 in 10 of our students, of our youth, are homeless. This comes at a time when the MTA is not working and they're going to raise it. This comes at a time when we need funds for healthcare, for education, for our people. But instead, they're giving $3 billion to a $1 trillion corporation. They are selling us out. And they say they're going to bring jobs. But most of the jobs that come with Amazon headquarters are top-tier tech jobs where people make $150K or more. That's 3 times than the average Queens resident. And that is only going to cause us to get more displaced. Yeah. So that's going to displace our community. But on top of that, they are robbing our tax dollars to give it to this $1 trillion corporation because of these backroom deals that we're making. So we're here telling him that if he thinks he is going to sell out our community, he is wrong, because we are going to bring resistance and we are going to bring him hell until he represents us.
Yeah. So I think that's all great, and I wanted to ask you, what do you think the solution here is? What do you think?
The solution is no Amazon in New York City. Yeah. The jobs that Amazon brings, even if they were not top-tier tech jobs, we know that Amazon is anti-union. Okay. It is an anti-union. It is an anti-union corporation. We could see in North Virginia there was cases of people that were passing out because of heat exhaustions in their warehouses, and they refused to put air conditioning. Instead, they would park ambulances outside of the warehouses because they said that it was cheaper. Yeah. They don't care about their workers. They also collaborate with ICE. Yeah. ICE, which is an institution that harasses immigrant families in our communities every day. This is not the type of corporation. Instead, we demand that money be used to fix NYCHA, to fund public housing, to fund our MTA system.
I want to ask you, do you know how much money the MTA gets annually?
That number I do not have right now, but I know
15 billion.
15 billion, and we know that that's being mismanaged. But we know that we know that right now they're trying to charge us more because they say that we need more money.
Fair hike, right?
Right, we are getting a fair hike, and this comes at a time when they're literally about to give this $1 trillion corporation more money.
I also wanted to ask, so they want to bring high-paying jobs, and you're talking about how it's going to be $150K and over jobs. Isn't that good for the community, these high-paying jobs? Isn't that going to help the people in the community with those skills? Because I know Amazon's coming here because they see New York City as a great hub for talent, which we are. We have a great hub of talent here, and that's why the best people and the best companies in the country come here. So that's why.
No, I don't think that first of all, the majority of the people in New York do not have those talents. Okay, are not top tier tech workers. I'm sure that if we funded education, maybe they would, but they don't at the moment. And these jobs, most of these jobs are going to be for people coming in.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, they're still going to be displacing the people. But you say that they want to, like CUNY, you know how much they're offering CUNY students? Because we know CUNY students. We have CUNY students that are going to be speaking today. They're offering them $15 an hour. That's minimum wage for next year. How are they going to be able to live off minimum wage since Amazon came to New York, to Queens, real estate brokers have been saying that they've seen a spike in rent that they haven't seen in 20 years. Yeah. It's already hard enough to pay for rent with minimum wage right now.
Yeah, and that's why we have like the rent stabilization stuff going on and all that, right?
The struggle for rent stabilization, because city council members, because de Blasio, he continues to be against that.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, sorry to interrupt, but so I'm conflicted because I do think it's good that Amazon's coming and they're bringing a lot of jobs, but I think it's bad that we're giving them all those tax breaks from de Blasio and Schumer working those backdoor deals. So can two things be true at once? Can those be bad, that Schumer's doing those backhand deals, but it also be good that Amazon's coming and bringing these jobs?
No, because these jobs aren't for the community. They're not. What they're offering our community is $15 an hour jobs, which you can't live off in New York City, and they're only going to gentrify the community more, so it's going to be even harder for people to live off $15 jobs. And at the end of the day, Amazon is known for being an anti-union, anti-worker corporation, and wherever it goes, you see its high level of workers' rights violated. So and it also collaborates with ICE, an organization that is literally killing and harassing our people and our communities. So do we want that for our community? Not at all. They need to leave. And that money needs to be funded for housing, education, for NYCHA.
Yeah. I also wanted to ask us, you guys have a lot of support here. There's a lot of people showing up to these different rallies. Would you guys consider organizing like a boycott of Amazon? Affect their bottom line?
Well, there are organizations like Queens Neighborhood United and Hate Free Zone that is organizing a boycott. At the end of the day, whether we boycott, a few people boycott or not, we're going to resist in all the ways possible.
Okay, great. Was there anything else you want to say?
We are having a protest outside of Cuomo's office on January 26th to follow this up.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Corporate handouts, other types of gentrification, other types of rent increases brought about by big businesses as well, and the ways that they exploit their workers and try to extract profit from them, as in the system in general.
I think a lot of people are angry too, because even the conservatives are pissed off about the tax breaks, and then we have the other people, the liberals, who are just mad about the gentrification that's going to come with it. But can't these high-paying jobs help anybody in those communities? It's 25K high-paying jobs.
There's a really good quote from a Seattle organizer that said they're not bringing high-paid jobs to your community. They're bringing people with high-paid jobs to your community, right?
So you don't think they're hiring here?
I think Seattle, the experience of Seattle has shown that oftentimes, the vast majority of the times, no. Queens is a working class borough. Most people work in like retail services. They aren't, working in tech jobs.
Yeah. But then how are we going to raise those wages? How are we going to get wages for those people in these neighborhoods that are working those retail jobs, higher paid jobs? Because I think injecting those higher paid jobs in those communities, isn't that going to, potentially give more people there more wages, higher wages?
No, because they'll be displaced. This is the same thing that happened in Seattle, right? People in Seattle had their rents raised through the roof. A lot of people had to leave Seattle, so this isn't going to bring a benefit to Queens that will be reaped for the people, right? They're going to be displaced, and they've already been displaced en masse.
Yeah. So do you think it was because of the companies in Seattle that Seattle's kind of taking the shift to the worse, or do you think it's because of the government and the politics there?
I mean, as we can see right here, right, we're outside Gracie Mansion for a reason. That Bill de Blasio, Andrew Cuomo, and Jeff Bezos are all hand in hand in bringing this to Queens, despite the clear opposition of the people, despite not getting any community consent. So government, politics, and big business have been in hand right now.
Isn't it consent through these guys, because these are the elected officials? So
no, this is, as you can see, this is what we're saying about like as you were saying before. This is bringing like a surprising amount of unity, because the city council, the community board 2 meeting that I was at, when they had the first wave of it, people are furious at the fact that they didn't get any type of community consent, input, or approval. So this is technically it was legal, right? But there's already legal action just happening even through neoliberal politicians to make sure this can't happen again. So it's a completely unethical way to get the deal passed. And it was again, sellout politicians working with big business against the will of the people.
Yeah. But I wanted to go back to Seattle because I think they're a great example because Amazon had their headquarters there. So again, do you think Seattle's turning for the worse because of the big companies there, or because of the liberal governors in power?
Again, under capitalism, right, it's both working together, right? A certain class of sellout politicians will enable big business to come in and work against the people. So it's both in tandem. That's why exactly why we're outside of this mansion.
A lot of people were saying Amazon got taxed out of Seattle because they wanted to propose like a head tax. I think it was $250 like per employee to help relieve the homelessness problem in Seattle. So a lot of people were saying that they were scared away by these taxes, which is why Amazon was so ruthless in trying to get these tax cuts.
What I heard was that when they tried to incorporate a tax to solve homelessness, so that Jeff Bezos kind of threatened the city, threatened jobs, threatened good union construction jobs, and so
to leave because of the taxes.
No, this is because of Jeff Bezos specifically wanted to maximize his profit. He's already the richest man in the entire world, and instead of paying some more of his wealth to help solve the homelessness crisis, he held jobs ransom for profit. Right? That's the real problem. Is another capitalist trying to maximize more profit instead of giving some of it to help the people and help the homelessness crisis. Right? So taxes were the correct approach. We should be taxing Jeff Bezos much more.
They're not expanding in areas like Seattle, so it's less jobs, and then it's less tax in total, like less tax revenue.
They won, I think, like a $48 million tax revenue from Jeff Bezos quite recently. There's an organizer in Seattle that was at a recent community forum that was sharing that success. So it can be successful.
Wouldn't it be better to have more people hired there? Because I think lowering the unemployment rate, and then we're hiring the tax revenue because we need to get people back
hired, right? It's a certain class of people. We're here representing the working class, right? Working class people that aren't going to be making 6 figures, right? So what the proposition is, if you're saying hire people, hire who? You know, my neighbors in Queens, the working class people of Queens, aren't going to be getting these jobs. Instead, they're going to be having their rents.
Why can't any of
their
these people fit the demands for these jobs? Because I know these companies come to New York City because we're the best city in the freaking world. Like, New York City has the best talent in the world. So when people say they're going to come here, they're coming here for the best skilled people in the world, which I believe exist here in New York City.
What about the working class people, right? This is the way the system
Are
works.
we
You can't
making
say
those people get paid more, though? Like, that's the issue, right? Because
I think it's a twofold thing where we both have to, you know, continue to increase the minimum wage, continue to collectivize corporations, continue to have worker control
and then stop
over the means of production, stop union busting, all of this as well, right?
Yeah.
People and the pressures on working class people as well aren't even just their pay that we should, of course, be increasing and having more working control over these companies in the first place, right? It's that they have to shell out so much of rent in this country as well, right? So it's not.
So then we could get into this housing issue. My issue with rent control is that it incentivizes the people who own the properties to leave them in crap conditions. Because if you know you're only going to get $600 a month out of a unit, you're never going to look at it twice. I'm never going to look at that unit again because why would I fix anything if I know I'm not going to get more
I agree.
money?
We need to enforce, you know, better housing conditions. This is why our demand is for quality, affordable housing.
Yeah.
So for slumlords to stop pushing out their tenants. This is what happens when Amazon comes in, right? They see an opportunity to make further rent, so they push out. I've had this happen to my friends as well, where they try to push up their rents by, again, neglecting the housing.
Yeah.
And this is why Amazon is causing the same problem. They're seeing the opportunity to maximize their profit.
Yeah.
And so that
capitalists, they're seeking the bottom line after
Exactly.
all. Yeah. Was there anything else you want to say?
No, that's it.
Great. Thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you
I
very
genuinely
much.
appreciate it. I interview people at protests, and I just wanted to ask you why you're out here protesting today and then just what's going on.
Because working people contribute all value to this society. The rich would have nothing without the hard work of working people. And now Amazon, a giant corporation, is moving into Queens. Our tax money is going to support them, and already the displacement of working people has begun.
And what do you want to see changed?
I want to see Amazon out of there. I want to see our tax money going where it belongs, not to pay the debt to the banks, not to give incentives to the richest company in the world, but to support those who do all the work in this society, because we have earned it. It's not welfare, it's not a giveaway. Those who get welfare are the giant corporations and the banks, and it comes out of our backs. And I want to see this change, and I want to see this change starting with Amazon.
Last question. I wanted to ask, is there one good thing that's Amazon coming here? Is there one good thing out of Amazon coming here?
Well, Amazon has done wonderful things in consolidation. But the problem is that all the work is socially organized and all of the profits are privately organized. That is the problem.
Well, the workers are still getting paid, right? They're bringing 25K jobs that are getting paid into six figures. So.
Well, some are and some are not. But no worker gets the full value of the work that they put in.
Well, thank you for your time. Was there anything else you want to say?
No, that's good.
Thank you for your time. Hey, so first I want to tell you my name's Elad, and I like coming to these protests and interviewing different people to kind of get the gist and the vibe. And I also wanted to commend you guys for coming out because I know it's raining a lot and it's a bad day to come out here, but you guys are still showing up. So I want to ask you, why are you guys out here today and what's going on?
I mean, we're out here for different reasons, but they're all around the big move of Amazon into Queens, moving their second headquarters into Queens, and we're here to say that we're against that. We're against that because of many different reasons. We're against that because of the wave of gentrification that is going to be bringing. You know, it's said by the mayor and by the governor that this is going to bring jobs, but as we know. Organizations like this, corporations like this, corporations like Amazon, whenever they move into cities, you see a high influx of gentrification. You saw it in Seattle, where these are not jobs for New Yorkers or people that have been living in New York already. It's not like there's going to be a cap where it's like, oh, you've been living in New York at this time. That's not what it is. It's going to bring more competition, more gentrification, more people into this area that has already been under destruction because of the new wave of gentrification and we're reaching capacity. The city has too many people.
Yeah. So I know Amazon is trying to bring 25K jobs. Do you think any of those jobs can go to people, in the neighborhood Because 25,000 jobs is a lot of jobs for that neighborhood.
Yeah, I really don't think so. If you look at the areas that we're in, like people are suffering because of like they're not allowed to work certain jobs. A lot of the people that live in these areas work in like retail jobs, service jobs.
Yeah.
So like a person who's working at Trader Joe's or a person who's working at a restaurant, it's not going to be the person that's going to be the first.
Yeah. But then how can we bring high-paying jobs to these neighborhoods? Because it's not going to be those retail jobs, those bar jobs.
You're correct.
That are getting higher paid.
You're correct.
Isn't it good that we're bringing these high-paying jobs to those neighborhoods for those people to try to get?
We do need high-paying jobs, but there's other options. There's things that we need to deal with in the city.
Yeah.
Like the MTA is falling apart. Those are high-paying jobs that can be given to people. We have $3 million, and we're subsidizing a company so they can come here. Well, we can have those high-paying jobs where it's people rebuilding our city, because our city is crumbling under our feet.
Yeah.
And bringing in more money and more people isn't going to make it better.
So do you think, about the MTA, what do you think the solution to that problem is? Because I'm not going to bother asking, but the MTA gets $15 billion annually, and I think it's a travesty what they do with that money.
Yeah.
So that's why when a lot of you guys are talking about give more money to the MTA, I think if we gave them another few $1 billion, they're doing nothing with it.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, I think you're completely correct, but that's a problem of corruption.
De Blasio, exactly.
That's a problem of corruption, and it's not a problem of De Blasio because it's been happening since before De Blasio.
But he's who's in power now, so let's point the finger at him.
Yeah, but we could have said the same thing under Bloomberg. The train system has been falling apart for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it's because of the ignorance, because of it being ignored by our city and state. They pushed it to become a public beneficiary instead of being something that is literally ran by the city and state. So it's still a corporation. They still have a board. They still have a board that wants to make profit at the end of
the
end of
MTA
the
is
quarter.
looking for a profit.
Their board is.
Okay.
If you look up the type of organization they're not a non-profit organization.
Okay.
They're a private beneficiary, which means they have a board of people that make profit at the end of the quarter. There's people.
Yeah. They're making money. All the employees are getting paid, and that's a good thing.
It's
Right?
not only the employers; it's the people that are making more money than the employers. I mean, sorry, it's not the employers. It's not the employees. Sorry, it is the employers. You're correct. Sorry about that. The employers are making more money, but that's not. If it's a city thing that majority of our people use, then it should be put into that. The money that we pay to every time we swipe into the train should be used to make the train better.
Okay.
But instead, it's helping to pay people up in upstate, people up in Riverdale, and like this is not on some conspiracy theory stuff. Like I've worked catering, and I've sat down working catering at some of these people's homes. Some of these people that never have to ride the train themselves are making profit from it, and that makes no sense.
And it's bad.
That makes no sense.
But now I wanted to focus on Amazon coming here. What are we going to continue telling these big corporations not to come?
The thing is that the corporations come regardless.
I mean,
the corporations come regardless.
I think it's De Blasio and Schumer nitpicking because they have high taxes, and then they need to give tax breaks to these companies to come.
But they don't have to. They don't have to. They don't have to. The thing is that Amazon will come here. Amazon. This is.
So we're not against Amazon coming here. We're against the tax breaks.
I am against Amazon being here.
And the tax breaks.
And the tax breaks.
Okay.
But the thing is that corporations move here on a regular basis. It's New York City.
Because we have the best skills. We have the best people here.
It's New York City.
Yeah, exactly.
And not only that, it's also like what the story behind New York City is. New York City is the capital.
It's immigrants.
The capital. It's almost the capital of the world.
I think it is.
People think of the United States outside of the United States, and they think of New York. So we don't have to give anybody tax breaks to move here. If they want to bring jobs, then they could bring their jobs without tax breaks. But we are against Amazon for multiple reasons because of the way that they treat their workers. It has been shown the way they treat their workers in the United States, but also in other countries. There was folks in Europe striking this year because of the treatment.
You could say that about many big corporations like Nike. Are you guys also out here protesting against companies like those?
I mean, if Nike decides to move our headquarters here, we will protest it, right? Because if we talk about workers' rights, because that's what we're here for. We're here for workers' rights and people's rights. So whenever we think about like what is going to affect the poor and dispossessed, is these corporations moving in and getting everything that they want. When it means taking off of the people that don't already have anything.
Yeah. It's tough for me to be against this stuff because I hear about the jobs coming in and I think about the unemployment rate going down, and I think that's the most important thing.
But that's the narrative that's always used. That's the narrative that's always used. It's always like, oh, they're going to bring jobs, so fuck your rights. That's how it always tends to be like that. Because that's how it tends to be. Whenever big corporations move into areas, whenever Walmart moves into a small town that has their small businesses, they talk about how Walmart is going to bring jobs.
But we're not a small town here.
All right,
one of the biggest cities in the world,
but it's still gonna close down things. It's still gonna bring the rent up. right?
Yeah.
So if it's not going to close a bunch of small businesses, it's going to dispossess a lot of people, which is already happening at very high rates.
Yeah.
Where people, so Amazon decides to move in this area, and we can't be delusional and act like all these jobs that Amazon are bringing are just going to be people from New York that are going to get hired. It's going to be a lot of people that are going to be transferred from other places, other parts of Amazon that are coming here that have already bought properties. They bought properties before it was announced.
Yeah.
They bought properties, and that makes the rent skyrocket.
So here's the thing about rents and the housing crisis that I'm really frustrated about. I feel like we're pointing the finger at these big corporations and things like that, but it's things like rent stabilization and rent control that incentivize builders to build less.
That's a lie.
That's a lie?
There's no building less. There's building more.
Can I try to explain to you?
Have you been to the west side, downtown?
Yeah, but a lot of what we're building isn't residential units. We're building a lot of condos. We're building a lot of mixed-use properties.
Condos are not residential units.
It's not for people who are renters, not for low-income people. That's not going to help bring down the money. We're building high-end condos.
If you look at the majority of housing that is created in New York, most of it is residential. If you look in this area in East Harlem, where they're trying to pass a rezoning, the majority of buildings that are going to be built are residential. If you look at Queens,
so we could pull back those regulations on those.
It's not a good thing, because you got to look at who is the housing for. That's what you got to look at.
Well, but more housing is a supply and demand thing, right? So if we make
not
more
about
housing,
supply and demand. It's not about supply and demand, because supply and demand means that you can put whatever price on it, because that's what the demand is. So if you can put whatever price on it, it doesn't matter who's going to suffer. It doesn't matter if someone that was born and raised in New York is going to lose their housing and not have a second place to go or a third place to go.
Well, it doesn't. I don't know if it matters if they were born here, right? Because we're all about that pro-immigration. We want to bring more people in. We want more immigrants in New York City, because that's what made the city great this whole time.
You're right.
So that's it. But was there any other points you wanted to point out?
Yeah. Amazon moving here is just going to further the ball on the side of these big corporations and these big businesses that have not one single grain of them inside of them is for the workers.
Do you think there's one good thing about Amazon coming here? Could you think about one thing that's good about Amazon coming?
Not at all.
Not one.
Not at all, honestly.
But higher tax revenue, anything?
No, not at all. I can't think of one good thing from Amazon being here, except
more jobs and higher tax revenue.
Except that Bill de Blasio is going to get a bigger donation. Except that.
We got that right. These are crony capitalists, so that's why I think we should go.
That the real
I hate
estate,
Schumer and de Blasio, and I'm glad we're on the same page about that.
Except that the real estate developers are going to have more money to build more luxury housing for these rich people that are going to be moving in. Except that now the slumlords.
Well, here's the thing: they're not incentivized to build the rent control, the rent stabilized apartments, because they're not making their money on that.
But why should someone make money on something like housing? Housing is something that is essential for human beings.
To incentivize more people to build them. That's why. To incentivize more. Because I think here. Wait, listen for 1 second.
If we have $3 billion to give a tax credit to Amazon, we have $3 billion to build public public housing for people.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. Our money we shouldn't rely on private developers to build homes for people.
No, but look,
we live in a state where we're paying taxes. We live in a state where we're working our ass off. The people that lose their housing are not people that are without jobs, are people that are working 40-50 hours, but then they don't have it. They still don't make enough money working those 40-50 hours because the rent is skyrocketing, and then they get kicked out of their homes. But then it's seen as their fault.
Yeah.
And it's not about only de Blasio. It's not only about Cuomo, because no matter who's in this house, this deal would have passed. Republican, Democrat, they would have passed it, because they are in the pocket of the businesses. They've been in the pocket of the businesses for a long time, and that's why we're here, because we're tired of it. We would be here if it's a Republican. We would be here if it's a Democrat. Both parties are scum. Both parties do not have the interest of working class people, and that's why we are out here, and that's why people are in the streets, and that's why we've seen it.
That's why we're getting Julia Salazar. I wanted to ask, I had one question on, you brought up the public housing stuff. Here's my one concern about that. I see the MTA is run like crap. It's run like absolute crap, and it makes me nervous, because if I lived in public housing, I wouldn't want it run like that, because I know the MTA is such garbage. I don't think the government could handle doing public housing right. And that's why I think it should be put into the interest of people who are looking to make money, because then you're incentivized, while the government isn't.
That's a myth. That's a myth. Because the thing is, if you're in it to make money, you're going to be in it to make the most amount of money. It's not about creating housing that is suitable for people. It's about creating how much money you can make in a small amount of time. We have to be realistic. It's not about putting it into the hand of the private. The public fails in this government because it needs to fail to incentivize the private. That's why it needs to fail. Because if we have a good mail system that works every fucking time, we don't need FedEx. We don't need UPS. If we have good public housing, then we don't need these real estate companies.
We just never have been able to rely on the government to do those things, though.
The reason why is because they've always been in the hand of the rich since the creation of this country. This country was created by wealthier people. It was not the poor people that were working for the ones that were writing the Constitution, that were sitting in that room talking about what do we need as liberation. The slaves didn't decide what was going to be done after slavery. It's always been in the hands of people that have money. So why would we trust them more?
So let's go back to this housing crisis. Do you think we should start claiming back units? Sorry about that. Do you think we should be claiming back units from the people who own these properties, or you're not that extreme about it?
No, I think we should.
We should be taking so privatized. You don't want privatized land for people.
So I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you one thing right now. I live in Harlem. In Harlem, we have warehouse buildings. Right. So these are buildings that are set aside to be housing, or at one time were housing. Right. But the landlords realize that they make more money closing it down and getting tax incentives, right? Having it down, you still get a tax credit, right?
And I think those taxes are bad. So we have the government already influencing these people's decisions, which I think is bad.
But it's because that's what the government is there for. The government
I'm just scared they'll do more harm.
The government is there for to please the rich. The few things that we have gotten for working class people have been fought for. Things like welfare programs have been fought for. These are not things that just existed.
But then we have things like welfare traps and people getting stuck in welfare. Is that an issue at all?
I mean, stuff like that is created to keep... Okay.
Do you want to just have a couple of quick words and then I'll listen to what you have to say?
There's bigger issues. These are all myths. These like so-called welfare traps are myths because there's no people that talk about the billions of dollars that are being stolen from workers. Like
in the form of taxes.
Not in the form of taxes. These wages that are created, in the form of wage theft. Like, this is money that is being stolen from workers. Jeff Bezos is the richest person in the world, not because he fucking created stuff. Everything that Amazon produces, everything that Amazon delivers is made by the hands of a worker. He has made money by doing what the majority of rich people in this government have done, in this society have done. Absolutely fucking nothing, and getting fucking handouts from their fucking family. The majority of rich people are rich through inheritance, not because they are hard work, bootstrap people.
So do you think there's financial mobility in the United States nowadays?
There's no true financial mobility, because if you look at the rates of poverty, they're only growing. If you look at the rates of homelessness,
you could work your way out of poverty in the United States?
If you look at the rates of homelessness, it's only growing.
Okay.
But yeah, I need to...
Okay, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Hey everybody, thank you guys so much for watching me interview these anti-Amazon protesters today. Please let me know what you thought of the video down in the comments below. And if this is your first time here, be sure to subscribe. I also wanted to give a shout out to my premium Patreon supporters. I only have one right now. That is Eric Arlano. Guys, until next time, stay barely informed.